The super reliable and super fast 4G plus MTN Turbonet.
Everything is downloading so
and
fast.
with this super fast MTN Turbonet, it's non-stop fun and entertainment for the whole family at my house.
Wow, I finally
Grandma, this is so amazing.
Connect your home and entertain your family at the speed of yellow. Get an MTN Turbonet today and stay connected to the things that matter most. Only on Ghana's fastest network. Dial *5057# to purchase an internet bundle today. We day for you everywhere you go.
Mr. Barr has big dreams for his business, Barr & Co. Limited, and his family, making them a reality meant long drives and queues. He's lost precious time struggling to pay his suppliers in China, Turkey, India, and other parts of the world. With the First National Bank global payment via our online banking enterprise, he now pays for all that in the convenience of his home or office, giving him time to focus on family and growing his business. Use our online banking enterprise to access Forex when you need it. It takes a bank that does more to help your family. So who's helping yours? First National Bank. How can we help you?
We know it's important to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in your employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is regulated and licensed by the National Health Insurance Authority to provide medical insurance services to institutional clients, families, and individuals. Apex Student Package and International Medical Solutions are all here to cushion you. Visit Apex Health Insurance Office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, or call
0501 683 914
or 0232 000 015. In Kumasi, we are located opposite Prempeh College, Sofo Line, and in Takrady, Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
We give you nothing but the best, we stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Boost and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takrady.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
DSTV Yonkupa and Nuntina yet time machino, and we thank you for choosing to stay at home and safe with us. Yet time machi, Entina Yamamo discount when you top up your DSTV subscription. Ane, you crow with kids educational channels like Mensah, Da Vinci, and the Ghana Learning Channel, as well as lots of kids entertainment and up to the minute news update on all the happenings across the world and home. Plus our captivating local and international drama, thrilling series and movies, all in one place. To get your discount, just top up your same or preferred subscription using MTN Momo, Vodacash, Slide Pay, Express Pay, eTransact, or your banking app, or SMS *389*5# and *759# and we will upgrade you to the next package at no extra cost. Yes, that's easy. Onyankupadie and Nuani DSTV. DSTV, yet time machine.
And you are live on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Evans Mensah, and this is Ghana Connect. Now, I'm going to play you the sounds of three leaders that I guess illustrates the point about leadership in a time of crisis. I mean, the coronavirus crisis. Listen.
Yeah, I look at it, I view it as in a sense, a wartime president. I mean, that's what we're fighting. I mean, it's a very tough situation.
We now have more than 900 people who are infected, as the minister told me, and we fear that it might rise even much further than that.
I assure you that we know what to do to bring back our economy back to life. What we do not know is how to bring people back to life. That the front line of the fight against coronavirus is your front door. If you cross it, you and your family will likely be infected.
Okay. The first sound is that of President of the United States of America, who takes the opportunity of the crisis to project himself. He says in that sound clip he is the wartime president. The second is the President of South Africa, who takes the opportunity of the crisis to tell the honest truth. Cyril Ramaphosa says we have 900 cases and warns his people to brace themselves because it is going to get worse. Then we have our own President Akufo-Addo, who also takes the opportunity of the crisis to do what appears to me as an honest expression of one's strengths and weaknesses. He says his strength is bringing the economy back to life, and his weakness is bringing people back to life. In fact, about the latter, he says, he simply does not know how to do it. Question: which of these three leaders would you rather have in this time of crisis? Different type and approaches to leadership. And yes, there are even more fascinating leaders emerging with styles that are the envy of the world. Paul Kagame of Rwanda and a strong arm approach to dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. Then, of course, there is Xi Jinping of China, tough and ruthless approach. Remember the lockdown for 2 months, no joke. We have Angela Merkel of Germany, a woman whose knowledge about the virus, by the way, because she's a scientist, and warmth is winning the war, saving thousands of lives. Just check the recovery rate of the average German who gets coronavirus, and then you understand what I'm talking about. So many leaders, but what type of leader is best suited for the crisis we are in right now? Connecting with me tonight via Zoom, Namata Surumaga Musisi is a Ugandan based in Ghana, a diaspora coordinator of People Power, a political movement in Uganda. Hello, Namata.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great to have you connect with us tonight. Also connecting is Dr. Kobe Mensah. He is a political marketing lecturer with a very interesting perspective to this conversation. Hello, Doc.
Hi, Evans. Thanks for having me too.
Great.
And hello, Matt.
Great. Kayla Megwa is a presenter and State House correspondent for Channels TV in Nigeria. Oh boy, have you seen the Nigerians recording themselves and wishing that they have our president? In fact, one of them says that we should take their president and give them ours. What is it about ours that they want? I mean, I'm curious to know what their own assessment of leadership is. Is Kayla on? Okay, Kayla will connect with us shortly. Chris Lett is a field producer for CNN Worldwide. Also connect via Zoom. Hello, Chris.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. How is your wartime president faring tonight?
Oh, wow. Let me just say that's an interesting statement, because a lot of people would say right now that we are in a crisis of life and death, and that the enemy is something that a lot of people don't even know.
Well, interesting first thoughts. The shots have been fired. We'll get Chris's in-depth knowledge and thoughts on this conversation shortly. Tabile Mushwana is a founder and CEO of Dental Marathon, an organization that provides free oral health care to children in Africa in underprivileged communities. He's also a brand ambassador of South Africa and Yardley Scholarship. Hello, Tabile.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. How are you guys doing there in the studio?
Oh, we're doing awesome. I'm curious to hear how Cyril is doing there. Your president. I played a clip of him just before we began, and I don't know how you're assessing him. I'll come to you shortly. Isaac Nyamiche Boache is a graduate student and a social commentator, joins us on the phone. Hello, Isaac.
Hello, Ivan.
Oh, great. Thank you all for connecting tonight. Wherever you are tonight, you can get in touch. I want to hear from you. This is how you can get in touch.
Join us now on Twitter, #Ghana Connect Live, Facebook, Joy 99.7 FM, or send us a WhatsApp on 0244 340 437, and we will call you back. Join the nation's biggest conversation now and connect to authority.
So don't forget, if you have a perspective to share, please get in touch. 0244340437 is the WhatsApp line. If you want to join us on Twitter, feel free as well. #Ghana Connect Live, or just hit me up at Nwete. It will sift it. If it's compelling enough, we'll call you, and you can get to have a say on this very interesting conversation. Gentlemen and lady, I want to start with one simple question and assess where all of you stand on that question. The question is, what will be your ideal type or kind of leader in this time of crisis? And that's a question for everybody. Let me start with you, Namata. When you look at the crisis we're in, what is the type of leader you'd rather have?
I think for me it becomes a very basic thing. We are looking for a leader who puts the people first. That's all there needs to be to it. The needs of the people need to be put above the economy. The needs of the people need to be put above politics. Put the people first.
Okay, great and simple. Dr. Mensah, where do you stand on that question? What type of leader would you rather have at this time of crisis?
Certainly a unifier, and just as Namata said, you want to have someone that actually unifies the nation. And if you look at leadership during crisis, it's someone that actually pulls the country together, i.e. The people together, the opposing factions together. So certainly I agree with Namata. Either you want a leader that's a unifier that actually puts the country, i.e. the people, first in the decisions that they take. So certainly I agree with that.
Okay, so one Ghanaian view, one Ghanaian-Ugandan view there. Very interesting thoughts. Let me go to South Africa. Tabile, what leader would you rather have now? Hello, Tabile, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Please repeat the question.
Yes, I was wondering, what type of leader would you rather have in this crisis?
A leader that puts people first, which is understanding the needs of the people, in especially the poor, the people that do not have a voice, the people that are hurting, the people that are underserved in communities where not even the internet, they have access to internet, they have access to radio, where a leader that will be able to understand that every decision that is being taken, it affects them, and bringing them on the table, even in discussions where they are not there.
Very interesting, and I'm seeing a common thread there run through the previous example. The preferences there. Isaac, what's your answer to that question?
I think for most countries, it depends on the kind of country you want to have. So, for example, Angela Merkel's kind of leadership is good for a country that wants to maintain its social order now. But look at countries that declare themselves as wartime countries, for example, the UK, for example, the US under Trump. These are leaders that have seen this as an opportunity to become the only superpower after this ends. So they want to win the race for vaccines. They want to win the race for who has control over the resources. For a country like Ghana that is languishing and then has no prospect and only wants to survive outside of this, I would like to have such kind of leadership that wants to ensure that we are a global leader after this conflict and not just survive after this crisis.
Very interesting perspective there as well. So you want to use this as a platform to project yourself as a country going forward. You want a leader that understands that and wants to project that strongly.
There's an opportunity to change the global order as it exists.
Okay, great. So, change the global order. I'll come to that for us to expand. Let's go to Kayla. Is a presenter and State House correspondent for Channels TV in Nigeria. Hello, Kayla. Thanks for connecting. Hello, Kayla. Okay, I don't seem to have Kayla. We'll try and get her back. But let me go to Chris. Chris, you're in the USA. So tell me your ideal kind of leader. Who would you rather have at this time?
Yes, I would say somebody who definitely can weigh both the fact that life matters and it starts with life. You have no economy, you have no society, you have no structure without people who are living and breathing. And usually these are involuntary matters, breathing, but in this case, that's what's being taken away is people's breath. And if you want to think about it, people are the breath of the economy. So we have to make sure that those folks who are central to making sure the world continues to revolve with a culture and with life, with zest, with zeal, which is that extra oomph that we often see in not just African economies, but in any economy that is seeking sustainability, including here in the U.S., which right now is stretching for finding sustainable solutions to this problem, and that's why a lot of people are itching to get back, or to get people back to work. Let me say that, because I can tell you right now, people here are not itching to get back to work unless there are several safeguards or guarantees that they can fall back on if this thing were to spike.
Okay, so I guess the follow-up question then for Chris, and I want to start with you on this. Based on your own expectation of the type of leader you want to have, the question is, do you see these attributes you crave for now in your leader?
Well, if you're referring to the leader of the United States,
yes, man.
Right now, we are still looking for like leadership that can definitely not only calm fears but move the needle. You know, early on, Donald Trump tamped down the seriousness of this disease and quickly got a rude awakening when his home state of New York became the epicenter of this global pandemic in a matter of weeks from his initial statements. So I would say that the U.S. is in a dearth of leadership right now.
The depth of leadership right now. Let me bring in Kobe Mensah. Kobe, you're a Ghanaian, so contrast what we just heard from the American expressions of aspiration, but then again, he believes that what he's aspiring for and what he looks for isn't there with what we have locally. You've told us what your ideal leadership is, but the ideal leader you rather prefer to have in this time is. Do you see that in your leader, the current president?
Sorry, the line wasn't clear. Can you please say it again?
Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Great. I was just asking, based on your own thoughts on the type of leader you rather have in this crisis, do you see those attributes in your own leader? We just heard there from America. You can even do a contrast between what you have in America, as in Donald Trump, and what we have here, as in President Akufo-Addo.
Okay. Well, let me say that I didn't hear what the other person said about America. But what I can say is, clearly our leadership, had actually carried the people along. But of course, we haven't actually seen, as I said earlier in the previous show, that at some point in time, especially when crisis hit, you would expect that leadership would actually carry the people along, not only in terms of the base of the nation, but also in terms of the posture, in terms of how they actually bring in other leadership in terms of the opposition party, for example. Now I haven't actually seen our leadership having a very common front. Although we've seen both sides, obviously the administration doing fantastically well, responding to the needs of the people, etc., and of course the opposition parties doing their best to actually show that yes, we're in crisis and they must help, and they don't have to actually leave everything to the administration. But I thought that I could actually hear both sides commending the effort that each of them have actually initiated, and perhaps see them on one platform. Of course, we haven't actually seen that. I haven't actually heard both sides commending the effort of each other and making sure that the people can actually see that there's a unifying front, and actually, understanding that politics aside, we're one people and we can fight one common enemy. Example, as the coronavirus that we're actually talking about. We haven't actually seen that unifying front. That could actually empower the people, and that could actually give the people aspiration that, yes, when it comes to a common foe or when it comes to one common crisis, our leaders are unified. All we see is that individual, kind of effort at various points, and that, I think, is not encouraged. I mean, we have actually come very far in terms of our politics. We have actually seen a lot of reforms going on. What we need to see is the attitude of the political, parties and the politicians, where they can actually acknowledge the effort of each other, and they acknowledge, the times that we're in, and then to forge ahead with one common purpose and with one common vision. We haven't actually seen that, and that's why I'm actually saying that perhaps when it comes to that particular leadership, we're just falling behind. Immediately actually do that, because then it could actually tell the supporters or the base that you don't necessarily have to be adversarial when it comes to politics.
Okay, so I hear you pitching
the efforts of the others.
I hear you pitching the concept of the collective leadership, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to come back, and I want to take that further. I want to come back then to you later, and then ask you to narrow it down to not the collective, but the leaders in the president shortly, and how he meets your expectations. Let me bring in Namata. So this concept of collective leadership, if you scale it up to the continent, the African continent, have you seen that? Have you seen leadership at the continental level? I mean, look at Europe. Europe is pulling resources together to deal with this. Of course, we've seen partnerships elsewhere. Mm-hmm. What's your comment on that?
I think that's a bit of a difficult one, simply because, you hear that there is an African Union fund, but we have not seen any sort of collective movement to protect the interests of the people in a manner that would sort of inform the people on the ground, about how to go about things, right? You have the situation where Africans are stranded in China and are being subjected to racist attacks. And it is taking people outside leadership or people in opposition leadership, such as is the case with Uganda's Bobi Wine, to stand up and speak for the people before our leaders sort of start taking more of an interest in the rights of our people who are in the diaspora. So I don't feel like we have seen enough of a coming together of the leaders of the continent. I believe Nigerian President Buhari has just been appointed the head of the ECOWAS sort of efforts against COVID. Again, people are not quite sure what this means. People do not feel that they are being led in that sense, and I don't think we are seeing enough in terms of unity.
That is a very interesting point, and that's the point I guess I want to bring in Kayla, who is a presenter and a State House correspondent for Channels TV in Nigeria. You mentioned the appointment of President Buhari to coordinate this effort for the sub-region and beyond. Kayla, how is that being received in Nigeria? Isn't this an affirmation of the sterling leadership that the President Buhari is showing, I guess, in this crisis?
Hi, it's nice to be here. Okay, so I was there, when he was appointed by the leaders of the ECOWAS sub-region to be the person who champions the response to the COVID-19 pandemic in West Africa. And I remember it being a unanimous, vote. Everyone basically decided, including your president, who was there at that teleconference, saying, we picked President Muhammadu Buhari, and he's gracious. He wanted to do it, and he felt if there was someone else who was more competent than him, that the person go ahead and take it. But they said, no, we wanted you to do it, and he said, okay, fine. And so he was appointed. Now, that in itself is an affirmation, at least for the Buhari presidency, of how well they may have handled this pandemic in Nigeria. And let me explain what that means. It's a very strange situation that we find ourselves in. Everyone has to understand this, that this is new to everyone on the planet. Governments are trying to find out what's going on. They're trying to understand this. Scientists are trying to understand this. We're seeing economies that we have looked up to for decades crumble in the face of this pandemic. We've seen healthcare systems that we run to. Many people in Africa run outside of this continent. Better healthcare, and we've seen places like that actually crumble underneath the weight of this disease. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about how Nigerians feel about this. Yes, of course, many people may look at it from a political standpoint, and when you look at opposition politics in many parts of Africa, it's basically a mudslinging contest, right? But when you look at how this government in Nigeria has handled the COVID-19 pandemic, there are mistakes, of course. They're grappling with a lot of mistakes. But I will say that the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has done a really good job at this, at the handling of the pandemic. Now, making President Buhari the face, the person who spearheads the response from West Africa, I think it's laudable. It's a good thing. Many Nigerians are talking about it, of course, on social media. We've had a pandemic that was handled almost perfectly. The Ebola situation was handled almost perfectly by the Nigerian government. So everyone is looking to President Buhari right now. Nigerians are looking to him. The West African bloc is looking to him to actually, show the leadership that has been entrusted in his care. So I think that's where it is. To make judgments on how leaders are handling this situation at this point in time may not be very fair, considering the fact that it is new. This is not something that people understand. But I will say that governments in Africa, especially governments in Nigeria, should have done a lot more for the healthcare system in the continent, in their country. If we had made healthcare better in Africa, if we had health systems, we wouldn't be having the heart palpitations we're having right now. The fear, I have to tell you, is that communities will get infected. And we're already seeing that in Nigeria. I'm actually looking at the figures for Nigeria right now. The figure for Nigeria is 981. 31 people are dead so far. We have, of course, had 197 people discharged. Now, if the years of neglect of the health systems in Africa, in Nigeria, these years have come back to bite us right now. Because if community spread continues, and we start to see places that are densely populated with zero infrastructure, people from there start to die in numbers, our health system, I can tell you for a fact, will not be able to handle that situation. So it is a time for African leaders, especially in Nigerian leadership, to reevaluate what our priorities are and do what is necessary. We're watching to see how this goes on.
What's the sense you get? Are people generally happy with the work that Buhari has done so far in this crisis as a leader?
I think that it's a mixture of feelings. Some people think he's doing a good job considering, the inexperience in this sort of situation that many leaders across the world, like I said earlier, are grappling with. But some other people feel a lot more should have been done. Some people believe that the lockdown should have happened so much sooner. That's actually one of the criticisms. The lockdown should have been done so much sooner. There should have been more infrastructure in our health systems, more training for medical staff. These were priorities that we ignored. The health sector in Nigeria has been abysmally funded for many years.
Yeah, and well, you make a very important point. I mean, I think as Africans, this is really exposing the years and decades of lack of investment in the health sector. Isaac, what's your own assessment then of your own leader, the president? In the last few weeks, you've watched him speak to the nation. Give me your assessment of him, looking at the parameters you set yourself when you were looking at the leader you rather have in the crisis. Has he met that criteria for you?
I think very much he has been a voice because, like my colleague from Channels was saying, a pandemic is something that nobody adequately prepares for. Otherwise, it wouldn't rise to the point of a pandemic. And so, what you are looking for in your leader is to ensure that is somebody who perfectly understands the situation and is also amassing and bringing together all the tools and resources necessary to fight it. I think so far, when you look at all the factors that are very important in ensuring that we're able to fight COVID-19, I think that the president has done very well in, first of all, letting everybody believe that there is a common enemy, that is the virus, and we must all come together to be able to fight it. I think the president's biggest headache and challenge, and something that is not only his but a global problem, is the balance between the health concerns and the economy. And so over the past week or so, he has received a lot of bashing for lifting the lockdown because it is assumed that he's placing the economy ahead of life. But that is also understating the importance of the economy to people's lives, because for so many people who are injected into the economy and live off it, closing down the economy is also ending their lives.
You know, Isaac, I'm so happy you brought this point up. Really, it's about leadership, as I've heard over and over again. It's about choices. And coronavirus is presenting leaders of the world to this period with hard choices to make. And you've just hit the nail on the head. Economy or life or health. I wonder, Tobile, in South Africa, how is Cyril Ramaphosa doing in making that decision between saving the economy and saving lives? Hello, Tobile.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah. Yeah. What's your take on that? Yes.
Any crisis or any difficult time, it doesn't make a leader. It reveals a leader. It reveals who the leader is at heart. And our president has been exceptionally well with he established a COVID-19 task team that is tasked to obviously look after the whole our economic sector as well as the health side of it. Dr. Zweli Kize, we were able to obviously keep down the numbers by far compared to many countries, not only in Africa but worldwide. Even the World Health Organization mentioned that South Africa has the best strategies to obviously combat the COVID-19, but also we're reopening our economy on the 1st of May, which will still be restrictions. Not everyone will be fully back to work, but we're opening certain sectors, like the financial sector, mining, agriculture, and a bit of food retail, which is not going to, you're not going to buy into food retail, but you can order online and then they can deliver the food for you. So, we're opening our economy in phases, which he obviously broke it down to us that we were in the fifth. There's 5 phases, which he opened. The first phase that was a total shutdown, and now we've moved to we're moving to level 4 on the 1st of May, which is it's also still on extreme precautions to limit to community movement. There's just specific sectors in our economy that we're opening them. After that, we'll move on to the third one, where people can be allowed now to go to work. But there will still be a lot of restrictions in terms of activities, in terms of social gatherings, in terms of how people need to be conscious and putting on their mask, obviously, hand sanitizer, social distancing, the usual COVID-19 precautions, basic precautions. But when we look at our global economy, all our borders are still closed for safety reasons. We've decided as a country to put people first. This is not about the poor, this is not about the rich or the middle class, it's about the human race. And our president has been able to be exceptional when it comes to making sure that the numbers are low. As they say, we're strengthening the care, but we're making sure that we're keeping the numbers low, so that whenever we get a cure, things can still go back into normal. We can't afford to have a lot of...
Yeah, I want to bring in Namata. Namata, I get a sense listening to Bile in South Africa, Kayla in Nigeria, Isaac in Ghana, Kobe Mensah. There's a sense, of course, I'll come to Chris shortly. We have a peculiar situation with Trump. But there's a sense that on the continent, at least, that our leaders are doing well. Is this a false sense or this is actually reality? What's your take on this?
I think I'll answer that question by explaining what's happening in Uganda, and then you can decide whether our leaders are doing a good job or not. I first want to point out that I actually can't hear anyone except for yourself.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, but just go on.
Just so you don't. If I repeat anything, let me know. But the situation in Uganda is essentially that Museveni is using this time to consolidate his hold on power. For those who don't know, he has been in power for 34 years, and there have been very, very hard efforts to sort of remove him and restore democracy. It is not working. He is using this period, like I said, to consolidate his hold on power. He is not putting the people first. An example would be, first of all, the fact is that a crisis such as this pandemic will show you the failings of the systems under which we are operating, right? And so now we have a situation, for example, in Uganda where our failing healthcare system is now on full display. We do not have PPEs, we do not have the adequate number of staff, right? And these are things that were reflected in the audits that happened in 2018 and 2019, right? So now half of these centers that these figures were reflecting for are actually for COVID treatment centers, right? Now, you also have a situation where the Museveni regime is now bribing MPs with a sort of COVID allowance, 20 million Uganda shillings each. I'm not sure what that is in cedis. The reason for this is because they presented a COVID budget that was essentially outrageous, and there was a huge uproar. Once this was done, the problem with that budget was also that, the defense sector had more than the healthcare sector, right? ICT and media had a ridiculously large amount of money allocated to them. And so then this was reduced when they revised it, but then they also then snuck in this 20 million Uganda shillings for the MPs, and I'm sure that was to sort of facilitate their process and to do what they wanted to do. So then the healthcare sector was put behind the defense and communication, which does not make any sense, right? And then you have the situation of the food distribution. As we speak, we have in the People Power Movement, Honorable Zake Francis, who was arrested on Sunday last week for giving out food. Now, in Uganda, malnourishment is at 41%, right? And Museveni decided that we're only going to be giving 1.5 million people food, and he was saying that is going to the urban poor. That means 1.5 million of, I'm just checking how many people, 41 million people in Uganda, 1.5 million of those were being given food in a country where 41% of us are malnourished, and we are living in poverty, right? Now, with the lockdown, demand for food from like smallholder farmers and all that is going down, so they're struggling even further. So the rural poor are suffering. But this is not in the interest of the people who are in power. And so you have people like Honorable Zake, who was distributing food through his own means, and then was arrested on Sunday. Not only was he arrested, he was beaten up. We did not know where he was. He is now sitting in a hospital, not of his choosing, having demanded, because they weren't giving him access to medical care, they weren't giving him access to his lawyers, they were not charging him, right? And the reason they had arrested him was because Museveni declared that anyone who is distributing food during this crisis and not doing it through the task force will be charged with attempted murders. This because they do not want popularity to rise amongst opposition. So they want everything to happen through them. Right? So again, he has now politicized this whole matter. He has made it something for him to consolidate his hold on power. You're seeing, inadequate amounts of food going out to the people, and what you are seeing going out, you're starting to wonder, okay, but what were the procurement processes for all of this, right? And you're seeing food that's also just not looking like fossils, getting what they have been promised under the, these lockdown conditions. And so the systems are failing, and Museveni is politicizing this whole matter and trying to sort of make it something that works for him, also in the hope that he consolidates his sort of hold on power as he tries to build popularity for the 2021 election. So essentially, when you look at that and you look at other instances around the continent, you start to wonder, are they really looking at the situation in terms of preserving life on the continent where, poverty is an issue? The fact of the matter is, yes, the pandemic is a huge situation that not every country is going to be able to deal with simply, but they are not putting the people first. And so you're finding yourself in situations where people like Honorable Zake is now sitting with what they suspect to be
because he chose to complement, I guess, the state's effort as helping people who may be in need.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a very interesting point, very interesting perspective. Let me just bring in Chris from the US, and Chris is a field producer for CNN Worldwide. Now, Chris, very interesting perspective from Uganda, and I get a sense from the matter that Museveni is taking advantage of the crisis to project himself, but to also entrench his political base as a leader. I've heard criticism against Donald Trump that he's also doing same, but isn't great leaders those who also, are able to spot opportunities in crisis? They say give the guy a break. This is an election year, and great leaders know how to solve the crisis, but use that as a launch pad for greatness and for entrenchment of one's own, interests. What do you say to that?
I'll refer back to Tobile, who said that this is a time when great leaders are revealed, not made. And so these instances are of opportunism, if you will, are nothing new in America's review of President Donald Trump, and the opportunities he takes to to go for the populist angle have actually rang hollow, I would say, with a lot of people who depend on the government in the United States, whether they know it or not. There are, I think, as of late, almost 30 million people who have filed for unemployment, which is a government benefit to secure your income in the midst of an unwarranted or unexpected departure from work. And that number is projected to grow. However, the president finds himself torn between the populism that he likes to lather on his base on a regular basis, either by calling the people who are protesting lockdowns good people, or by discounting the seriousness at the onset of this disease, this pandemic. Those kind of cheap shots, those political cheap shots, actually have a price to them, and that price is now being shown when it comes to his true loyalties. His words please his base, but his actions please the paycheck, if you will. And in many cases, you've seen the quick turnaround of these stimulus packages that have come out of nowhere. We were talking about squaring the budget, bringing down the deficit a year ago, but now we're exploding the deficit to make sure that industries can continue. And a lot of times these industries somehow end up being directly related to the purse strings of, if not directly the president, the people in his orbit. And so right now we see a state like Florida, for instance, that has remained pretty much open, and his urging to open up non-essential business has kind of poisoned a lot of the people in leadership in the Republican Party, so much so that in the state where I am in, which is Georgia, technically today is the first day of opening non-essential business in the U.S. state of Georgia. However, the governor who announced that opening up of Georgia, or first phase of opening up of Georgia, has been thrown under the bus by the president for saying that this is too early, that he would wait a little bit, to quote him on this, and that that he wants to he wants to see some numbers trend downward in a state like Georgia, which is I think number 11 for a number of cases in the United States out of all the 50 states. So there are states that are worse hit that haven't even opened up. But Georgia is taking the steps to open up, all to please the political paymaster. And then that political paymaster turn around and slap the governor publicly down, saying that this is a premature move.
But so that is a fascinating position to be in. And I'm just curious, coming back to this conversation about leadership, I watched the Georgia situation, and then everybody, it was a tense one. You don't know whether you're going to get it right until you actually take the decision we are told, and leaders actually take these tough decisions. Do you at least appreciate that, well, he had to make a decision either way? He's made one. Only time will judge if that decision was the right one. I mean, is there any part where you actually at least appreciate that? At least he's taking the decision, a tough one, you judge him based on time?
Not when people's lives are at stake, It's not something that you gamble with, especially when you see the science pointing to the fact that, a premature opening up of any place right now could see a later spike down the line. So you should at least take into consideration, and that's what I think is a mark of a good leader, is to have a cabinet of rivals, if you will, or people who will challenge you respectfully, and someone who has an objective look at the situation, who isn't concerned about poll numbers, who isn't concerned about job security, that is only looking at the data as purely as they can to make an assessment that will affect the millions of people in the balance.
Very interesting point of view. I'll come to Kayla and see how this is playing out in Nigeria, so whether there is a sense of opportunism there too. But Dr. Mensah, you've spoken already about this in the context of our president and within the general context of the election year, and how we should see the president's leadership, which you applaud, within that broader context. We've heard from Uganda that is playing out there quite significantly. Museveni is using it to project himself and entrench his political base. We've heard from of Chris, the CNN Worldwide film producer, who's talking about Trump doing the same. You also have a view on this, with the way the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, has handled this also within this broader context of the elections on December 7th. Share with me. Hello, Dr. Kobe Mensah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Evans, I didn't hear the last one, but I suppose, I can hear you now. I can actually, make sense of what you said.
Exactly, yes.
I think that it's a realistic, decision that our president is actually taking. I mean, let us be frank. No leader in an election year wouldn't actually pay attention to the realities on the ground. And the realities on the ground is that, yes, there is a health issue, health crisis that we're dealing with. But there is also, an economic one. There's also a political reality. There's also a social reality. And these realities actually come together. And for any politician, that is actually facing re-election, surely these environments would actually come into the decision. And I would even be surprised for the administration to even say that they haven't actually considered these factors as relevant in the decisions that the president is actually taking. It's a realistic one. Any president would actually do that. And as I said, although, yes, the president has taken decisive, bold decisions, but let us not forget that there's an election to be fought, come December. Now, so if you look at the president's pronouncement of the things that he's offering, clearly nobody's actually questioning that, but that's actually offering that actually goes to enhance his standing in the election. Of course, you wouldn't actually say that he shouldn't actually do anything. That would be, very naive for you to say that, because it will be seen as campaigning, or because it will be seen as undertones, or some kind of nuances of campaigning, he shouldn't actually do that. Definitely, he's supposed to actually give those freebies. He's supposed to actually, give those pronouncements so that they can actually go on to cushion, the pains that people are actually, facing. But surely that actually puts him in a pedestal that his opponent, would naturally have the opportunity. And obviously, if you look at the opponent, the opposition party, they also go about, distributing food. Now, if we have to actually do that in election contest, that would be vote buying. But because it's a crisis, they're actually taking that opportunity to actually, do that without we actually calling it as, some sort of, window to actually influence the people's vote. Because right down in December, we're voting. So any bit of every decision that you actually take goes actually to enhance or detract from your standing come the election. So for me, I think that these are realistic decisions that the president has taken. Of course, it's not the ideal one, because ideally the World Bank says that we should have been under lockdown by now, and they're actually telling countries who are actually opening up their doors too early that there could be a spike if we don't actually stick to some of the health precautions and the health decisions that the World Health is actually putting across. So certainly the president is actually taking a decision that is, yes, perhaps in the interest of the country, but also to the interest of the administration. And you could also see that the opposition party is also doing the same, taking the situation at hand to actually go to benefit them. So for me, I think that yes, it's a realistic decision. It is not the ideal one, because per the decisions or per the advice of the World Health Organization, some of the decisions that have been taken shouldn't have been.
Yeah, and let me ask you. Yeah, go on. Yes.
I just wanted to say, because I think one of the things that we need to stop doing is we need to stop sort of at-leasting situations, right?
Tabila, give me a second. I'll bring you in shortly. Namata, go on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, for example, when the lockdown, when we were sort of heading towards the lockdown, the NIA was insisting on keeping the registration centers open in Eastern Region in particular, right?
Yes.
And then you had the Speaker of Parliament talking about things such as, maybe now people will understand why we want to keep why we want a new parliamentary chamber. Yes, people are running elections, but it can't be at the cost of the lives of the people. This is a very difficult situation we are in. Now, even with the lifting of this lockdown, we don't know what the impact of it is going to be. Like you said, the World Health Organization is warning people who are opening up early. So are we saying that we're doing this so that we can sort out the voter registry and things like that at the expense of the lives of the people? That can't be our form of realism. No, we can't accept that. It can't be acceptable. We have to look at the way, if a nation is delivering, or if a government is delivering care to its people and providing adequate health care and sort of, putting the funds towards the things they promised, helping people who are not able to work during a lockdown and all those kinds of things, if those things are consistently done, if you're even thinking of elections at this period, then surely when they come through it and see that they were supported through it, instead of having people's homes demolished at Old Fatima during a lockdown, if these things could be done, if you had Kayaye who are being told do not leave the city, and yes, we are going to deliver on the food that we promised that we have, is going to be provided for you in this period when you cannot work, then you will have the support. But we can't be looking at it in terms of getting the support before the lives of the people.
Dr. Mensah, go on.
I didn't actually finish with my point, and that's what I'm saying. That realistic decision is now actually giving out our feelings. Now, if you listen to our the finance minister, he's actually saying that we're in the woods when it comes to the economy for the next 3 years. Now, our government actually talking about resilient economy. How could resilient economy now facing, 3 years in the doldrums as a result of COVID. Now, we say that the economy is doing well. How could COVID really get people to the extent that we have to actually lift the lockdown, because we think that if we don't lift the lockdown, people are going to actually suffer hunger? That tells you that we're not doing well. So I'm saying that realistic decision has actually opened up the failings that we think that we have actually resolved, and we haven't resolved. So the realistic decision has actually opening up, our failings and said, look, all that we've been telling the people that the economy is doing well, perhaps it's doing well on paper, but in reality, it's just not. About some few weeks of COVID, and we're struggling.
Yeah, but very Very interesting perspective. I want to bring in Tobile. Tobile, you wanted to say something earlier on this.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yes, so this is a global crisis which it needs leadership, not any kind of leadership, but the leadership that will put people first. We can come up with so many strategies on how we can, skin this cat that we have, but we cannot run away from the fact that this needs a leader that will put people first. And, I haven't seen much of the unity in Africa as much as I've seen in other continents when it comes to this COVID-19. And, calls like this and what you have started through just making a call like this would be lovely to, call most of the other guys that are in other countries, get representatives of the guys that are in other countries. If you're looking for a network from other guys from other countries, I'm happy to share it with you. But there's always something strong that comes out when we all unite, not look at the other people that are affected in China as it's only Chinese, or it's only the Americans, or it's only the Africans. Because at the end of the day, it's going to screw everyone up. People can play the blame game of this is the Chinese virus. It doesn't matter whose virus is it. Because you can say it's a Chinese virus. A week past, people are getting infected in your state or in your country. You're not taking practical action to protect the people and make sure you gather resources around which is people. Gather professionals that can help you with a sound advice. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Even if it comes from the sky, it doesn't matter. All it matters is let's gather, let's unite, let's come up with solutions. Let's make sure we connect with people. And even with young people, there's a lot of young people that are inactive on the continent. I'm happy to be part of this call and I'm happy to take it forward. Can we get people throughout the continent? Can we get my friends from Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Lesotho, Namibia, Mozambique, Zimbabwe? Can we get them on a call like this? Can we, pre-plan? Can we organize? Can we get the proper audio? Can we get entrepreneurs? Can we get people that are passionate about leadership and solving global problems? Because we can blame also politicians, we can blame people that are in leadership today. But as young people, at the end of the day, the buck stops with us. At the end of the day, the money that is being borrowed from the IMF to rescue our economies, we are going to pay back that money. We are going to pay a price or a sacrifice of high interest rates, high repo rates in our countries, and our children are going to pay a price for that. So we live in a global world, and we have to think next 20, next 40 years, next 60 years. The people like our presidents that are making all these decisions, they're never going to be there tomorrow when the fruits of their bad decisions come. Because now it's only about their interest. If you give me about Vision 2060, chances are these guys are not going to be there. They're casting a vision on my behalf, and I have to be responsible for some of the things that are happening. I can't just watch things happen.
Tobile, I'm really grateful that you brought it up. I'm going to bring in Kayla now, just to wrap it up for us. And Kayla, of course, correspondent for Channels TV, Nigeria presenter as well. I wonder, Kayla, you give us a global African point of view, which started all this, chain of conversation about the leadership and what they're doing. Give me a sense of this. In Nigeria, has Buhari enhanced his reputation? If you look at him going into the crisis and what he's doing now, is there a sense that he's enhanced his reputation, or that it's battered in a way?
Okay, so let me just say this. There are a few things that are good, right? For instance, we're seeing that President Buhari, I think this is yesterday, day before yesterday. So he ordered the payment of salaries of all lecturers who are not enrolled in the IPPIS. Now, that was a bit of a controversy because some lecturers didn't want to enroll in the thing. But whether you're enrolled in it or not, he has ordered the payment of salaries for all those people. All right. So he's doing what he can. We're also seeing there is a plan they're discussing a sustainability plan. They came up with something called the Economic Sustainability Committee, headed by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. And they're working on, a Nigeria post-COVID-19. And then they've been working arduously to see how palliatives can be made available.
Oh, you mean Nigeria is already planning what will happen post-COVID-19?
Post-COVID-19.
That's interesting.
Now, the Presidential Task Force also on COVID-19, they received life insurance cover for all frontline workers of COVID-19. That was announced today, right? So here's the thing: it's a mixture of. You have to remember that President Muhammadu Buhari is not running for president. I mean, again, okay, this is his second and final term, so he can actually afford not to care about anything. But he is doing a few of these things. And, enhancing his reputation, is he more loved now? In some places, probably. Remember that we had a National Social Register that had been on since 2015, and they had been giving 5,000 naira to the poorest of the poor in the country every month. Now, what President Muhammadu Buhari has done since COVID-19 is expand that National Social Register by 1 million people. That way, more people can be encompassed in those payments. And the payments have been increased from 5,000 to an upgrade of 20,000 naira. So, as much as there are many things that we would want President Muhammadu Buhari to do at this point in time, the truth is that he's doing what he can at this time. I don't know if you understand my point. It's one of those situations where, at this point in time, the Nigerian populace, they have been betrayed by leadership for so long. We have a very jaded population, so to speak. But at this time that we're in, consolidation is the message. Work together. How do we do this together? How do we support the government to do the right thing for all of us? We are in a mess. All right? Mudslinging, pointing fingers, and yelling right now isn't going to get a lot of things done. All right? So if we can work together and, correct the wrongs around us, build trust. I think maybe that's what the Buhari administration needs to do right now, is to get the population, to get the Nigerian people to trust government.
Yeah, but that is, I guess, a big deal. Even locally, we're having that conversation as well. Let me take a few of your comments before we wrap up. Also on this, I wonder, Dr. Kobe Mensah is a lecturer. Doc, if you can hear me, if you want to score the president, Nanado, 0 to 10 on his leadership during this crisis, what would you score him?
Well, I think the president has been very decisive and bold. Obviously, when you take that, posture, I'll definitely say that he's done, say 7. He's done well.
Okay.
But I haven't actually seen the other factors that I have actually said that I want to see a leader in such crisis portray, which I think is the downside of it. But I'll give him 7.
7, okay. Thank you very much. What did people say?
That one's from Albert says, in crisis you need a leader that understands every decision thoroughly. Unfortunately, the voices played are good sound bites, but not leadership, because there are too many questions that lingers on. And another one here says, we need a leader who thinks on the spur of the moment, whose decisions are apolitical and not knee-jerk.
Thank you, Ernest. And First Take is up next, and the lads are joining you with the very exciting conversation on sports. Zoom, of course, is going to be the primary means, but Gary's in the studio as well to chat on all things